Okay, think we're good. All right. Thank you everyone again for joining us. We want to welcome the newest members of the Pitzer community to our virtual summer welcome reception. My name is Jenna Goff, and I'm the Director of Alumni and Family Engagement. And my team and I work to serve our alumni and family communities to really enhance your connection to the college. We loved getting to meet some of you in Wonder earlier during our pre-virtual reception. And we hope you're able to connect with each other and friendly faces. It was fun watching you kind of shooting star your way around our platform. During this webinar portion of the reception, I'll introduce you to three key members of the Student Affairs team. These individuals will help your students navigate Pitzer and provide valuable and tangible assistance along the way. First, we'll hear from Vince Greer, our Assistant Vice President and Dean of Students, and Gabriella Tempestoto, Associate Dean and Director of Academic Support Services. They will share some helpful information about our COVID-19 student protocols and support. Next, we'll hear from Todd Sasaki, our International Student Advisor, and he'll share information that'll be important for our international families and those interested in the study abroad program. After our presenters have finished, we'll transition to a Q&A segment of the program. So feel free to use that chat or the Q&A feature to ask your questions throughout the program, and we'll address after the presenters have done speaking. So when all questions have been answered, then we'll invite you back into the Wonder Room so you can keep mixing and mingling with each other. So next, I want to welcome our incoming students. We are so excited and so thrilled that you'll be joining us this semester. So I want to share a couple of stats about you and your class. We had 3,678 total applications for this fall semester, and 644 of you were admitted, and 318 of you accepted. So we have an admission rate of almost 17.5%. Your average GPA is 3.98%. And our class is comprised of just over 34% male, 48% female. We have almost 9.5% who have disclosed other, and just about 7% who are undisclosed. We have over 11% international students, over 39% students of color. Over 37% of you are coming from California, and over 62% are coming from out of state. We have 11% who are first generation, and 11% who will be our Sage Hen student athletes. So we have a very well-rounded and very intelligent class joining us this semester. So with that, I want to turn over the program to Dean Vince Greer.
Thank you so much, Jenna. Good evening or good morning or good day, wherever you may be around the globe. Again, my name is Vince Greer. I serve as our Assistant Vice President and Dean of Students within our Division of Student Affairs. And really, really excited to have some time with you all today. We're so pumped to have you all joining us very soon. It's creeping up. August is here, and so you all will be here before we know it. And just in preparation of your time here, we wanted to just briefly touch base on a couple of things. First of all, we'll spend some more time in really sort of diving deeper in future sessions and communication, I should say, around some of just the preparation for our upcoming, your upcoming arrival on campus. For the sake of today's session, I really want to spend some time focusing on our COVID guidelines. And there's been a ton of questions about that. And I can't speak for many folks, but I can say I am over COVID, and I like to think most people may be as well. And so with that being said, we do want to share our latest updates of where we are as a college. Please understand that some of these things are constantly evolving while much of it is solidified going into our incoming academic year. So when we're thinking about COVID for folks last year, obviously this wouldn't apply to you all, but we had to make quite a bit of modifications to have an in-person experience again. And at times that required some disruptions, some adjustments on the fly based on various infection rates and our guidance from LA County Public Health, And that continues to be a thing where we'll always lean into LA County Public Health as our sort of guidance, but we also work very closely with medical professionals that are really on the ground. So all our information is coming from a very sound and informed place, and not sort of making a decision on the fly, if you will. So with that being said, there have been a lot of questions we've already started to field around what are the expectations upon arrival. So in terms of our pre-arrival, we do expect that our incoming students, all of our students, quite frankly, will look to get a PCR test that will take place ideally within 72 hours prior to arrival. Now, we do recognize that depending on where you may be and your ability to access a PCR test, that's not always a thing. And we recognize that. And for those cases, we're able to work with students on an individual basis and be as flexible as we can. In most cases, what will happen is our student health services will be open and available. We also have some other things we'll unveil and talk a little bit about as well that could help with that issue if you're having any issues accessing a PCR test. I recognize that quite a few folks may be able to take an antigen test. And that's good to just sort of have a feel of where you are. Certainly if you're symptomatic, but even if you aren't, but in terms of an official test that'll be recognized, it will be a PCR. So we just want to be very clear around that in terms of just pre-arrival expectations. Again, just to briefly back up in terms of our brief framing and context, we really want to keep the community safe. And that is always going to be our foundation. We want this to feel as close to a quote unquote normal experience, in-person experience as possible. And that really requires our entire community to hold hands to ensure that we're on the same page and that we're prioritizing our health and safety. Because we never want to be in the position that we were in when we found out that horrible news that, COVID was a thing. So as I mentioned already around some of the pre-arrival testing expectations, the reality is as well is that you're going to have so many folks from all over the globe amongst each other. And so we want to be mindful that even once you arrive on campus, if you had a negative PCR results, awesome. We want to continue to monitor those and continue to test for the first 2 weeks of classes. This is just to ensure that everyone is still remaining safe and sort of keeping that at the forefront. Now, I will say that there is a major pivot from last year. Last year, we had weekly testing that was a requirement of all of our students. This year, that will not be the case. As it stands right now, we are not planning to have weekly tests. However, it will be that first critical period. Again, when you're arriving on campus, certainly when you're coming back for any sort of breaks, we'll re-implement some of these measures as well. But over the course of the semester, it got to be a lot, to say the least. So with that being said, that doesn't mean that at any point in time, if you would like to monitor and continue to be proactive and want to continue to test, we encourage that. And you can certainly take advantage of that by going to our student health services, our students. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll talk about another way that students can access that outside of those business hours when student health services isn't available as well too. So just want to remind folks of that too, because we know there may be a moment where maybe perhaps you're experiencing symptomatic issues, or maybe you've been close contact with someone who was recently tested positive. And we want to make sure that we're able to give that assurance to yourself and the community as well. A couple of things, as I mentioned, we're really looking to, if anything, expand and get closer to a normal in-person experience. So much of our social experiences and those sort of things, we'll try to have that be as normal as possible. In addition to that, our 5C cross-campus dining, this has been something that has been, universally on the same page across our sister campuses or our colleges. We're looking to continue to resume that cross-campus dining. And that's a critical element of the student experience for all Claremont College's students, certainly at the 5C level. And so that's something we're really excited about, to be able to resume that without any sort of disruptions. The same thing can be said for our 5C campus programming. We will always have our campus program, and it happens at Pitzer, but there's always that 5C element as well, where it gives an opportunity to sort of bring all of our undergraduates together. And so we're really excited to be able to resume that without any sort of disruption. So wanted to be clear about that. The other big question we've gotten and had to field a lot already is, what are the move-in expectations? So with move-in right around the corner in the next few weeks, the biggest question that we've been getting is, what is the plan? Well, the plan goes as such. There's a requirement that anyone that's going to be in the halls are able to produce a negative PCR test within the last 72 hours. So the same thing we expect our students, we expect of any family members or loved ones or guests as well. So just being able to produce that upon arrival on campus, we will welcome you in with open arms. Secondly, there's been a lot of questions in regards to masking. Our masking expectations right now is that it's in alignment with our LA County public health guidelines. And so there isn't a specific requirement of masking in general. However, for move-in, that will look a little bit different. For any of our guests that are participating in move-in, we will require that you're masking indoors. I repeat, we will require that you're masking indoors. So at that time, we want to make sure that we reduce any chance of a transmission rate or any of that, even if you have produced a negative test, and prioritize health and safety. However, outside, we strongly encourage you in large settings to mask, but we recognize that we're not implementing a requirement outdoors. So indoors, that is required. Outdoors is strongly encouraged, but that's totally your choice ultimately. So that's been a really hot button topic in regards to expectations. Again, just to close that out before I shift it over to Gabriella, we really are excited to have you all coming back. We want to make sure that everyone has tested negative and able to produce proof from a PCR result. And again, we're so excited. We have some really fun things on tap and on deck for you all this year. So I'm going to shift it over because we have some more things to talk through in regards to COVID. And I'll pass it over to our Associate Dean, Gabriella. Senior Associate Dean, sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? My Zoom is working. All right. So thank you. Welcome, everyone. As you've already heard, we are so excited to be welcoming you all to campus very soon. We have been working very hard to prepare for you. And as Dean Greer said, we've got a lot of great things planned. And so we want to, it's kind of a hand-in-hand process, right? We want to keep the community safe so that we can all continue to have this great community that we are really proud of and have allow you all to have the opportunity to interact with each other, which I know has been such a difficult thing for the last few years for everyone. So as was stated, we're all tired of COVID. I just want to name that. But at the same time, these are the protocols that are going to really help us continue to have that robust campus life that we are all really excited to engage in and hope that you will be as well. So what happens if you do test positive for COVID? We hope that that is not the case, but understanding that we do need to prepare that in the event it happens, it will likely happen to some folks. We want to let you know upfront what the expectations are. So if you do test positive, our process is that you will be notified, students will be notified via email once they have gone ahead and completed the test through our student health services model. They will be notified through an email saying, you know, you have tested positive, here is the plan. So we've really worked hard to have clear communication for all students if that were to happen. And in this email, so please just know, families, let your student know if for some reason they're not able to join us today, and students, please know. There will be clear communications through email. So that's going to be very, very important to be aware of. And in that email, there'll be a lot of information about how we're going to go through the isolation process. We are being required to isolate anyone who tests positive through LA County Public Health. So that is a requirement of the county. So please know that that's it's a Pitzer requirement because the county is telling Pitzer and any of the colleges in LA County that we do need to isolate students. So the isolation process will be explained to students via that email process, and then they will have support from our team, also from our campus safety team. We will need to move students to our isolation spaces. We will talk more about them when they're here, of course, about that when they're here. And then my office, I do work with academic accommodations and support. I will work with those students and their faculty because obviously they will not be able to attend class. So we will help them with that process to provide support while they are in isolation. So please know that that is the process. We currently have 25 isolation bed spaces set aside for students in the event that students do become ill, and the isolation protocols and support will be in place for them. So for example, if a student does need to move to isolation, as I said, they will get help in moving their things. We do let them know. We have a really good list of like what we're calling a go bag, so that they know what items they're going to need to take with them to isolation, just kind of as a reminder in those moments. Sometimes, especially if they're not feeling well, it's hard to remember, oh, I need my phone charger, oh, I need my computer. So we really guide them with that. And then the isolation rooms are prepared so that students are not going into just an empty room. We do have a little snack kit provided for them. We have towels and all of these things that they're going to need. And then we have a process where we will start delivering meals and communicating with them through an online process. So we will not just, isolate them and not communicate them. We will be communicating with them the whole time. And our team has really been mindful of the mental health piece of isolation. Isolation is not easy. If any of you have had COVID, you know that staying away from family and friends is really difficult. So we have worked with our mental health teams, both in our counseling center and then my office as well, to create like a check-in for students. Last year we did have an isolation support group that was live on Zoom, that students who are in isolation were able to log in with one of our therapists and do like a check-in and kind of just talk through anything they might be experiencing during that time. We've also designated a walking area where students are able to, with their mask on, leave isolation to get some fresh air, to get some sunshine, to really be able to, again, not be stuck in a room the whole time, but at least get outside as long as they follow the appropriate protocols, which we will be telling them again. But I know that was some feedback we got from families last year of how very hard it was for students to just be in isolation without leaving their room. So we have heard that feedback and have worked really hard to create a process that is as gentle as possible for them while also keeping everybody safe. And as Dean Greer mentioned, we do have a new way of accessing tests if students do need to test them for COVID. And we are getting a vending machine on campus that will allow students to have 24/7 access to test kits, which is a huge, I think it's going to really streamline that process that we did have some bumps with in the past. So please know that they are going to be able to have access to testing 24/7. I think that is it for me. I'm going to see if my screen, it will move. Yes, this is our our vending machine. We're very happy about this because we know how important it's going to be for all students, and understanding, there's also going to be the flu going around. There's going to be colds going around, and sometimes that anxiety of having to wait for our medical staff to, be available for testing. We're really hoping that this is going to alleviate some of that anxiety where, oh, it's just a cold, okay, or perhaps it's the flu or whatever it might be, but we know it's not COVID, so that we can work with students to, figure out what else they might need. So the vending machine is going to be in place on campus in the coming weeks, and we do expect to have that ready for when the college opens. So, and with that, thank you all again for your attention, and I believe we're gonna move along our program.
Thank you, both of you, very much. Todd, we will hand the program over to you.
Thanks, Jenna. Okay. Hi, all. Welcome. My name is Todd Sasaki. I'm the Director of International Programs here at Pitzer. I've been here since 2002, so quite a while, and it's been great to see our international community grow and change over that time. I'm going to change gears a little bit and move away from the COVID testing and just give you some numbers and some helpful guidance about the international students and the community here. I know it's late in the evening for any of my parents that are from Europe, and then in Asia it's very early morning, and then in between it's the middle of the night. So that being said, I'd like to welcome any of you that are here. I know I saw at least one of my international students that are that's in the attendance too as well. So hello, Nayab, and glad you could join in. We have 34 new visa holding international students coming in for this class, which is about a third again as high as we were last year. So it's an increase from last year and especially from the last couple of years. In addition, we have 10 international exchanges that will be here for either the semester or for the academic year. And in addition to those ones, we also have a broader international community full of students who may be green card holders. They may have dual citizenship. We have several students who went to international high schools that may have U.S. citizenship but grew up or spent significant time abroad, and we welcome all of them also to the international community. So there is a large number of students that your son or daughter may be interacting with that are part of the international community. In addition to that, we have a number of students who have gone abroad, less so than in previous years. We've been derailed a little bit by COVID, but we are having study abroad again this semester. And we had folks that were abroad last semester that will be returning to campus. And so those two also bring a different kind of broader global citizen perspective to our students. And so for our international parents, it's a big thing to send your students abroad to a different place. And so we just want to reassure you that we are here to support your students and to really try to give them and connect them with the resources that they need to be successful here while they're at Pitzer. To that end, we do have international student orientation, or your students should be arriving early before the before the Pitzer new student orientation begins, so that there are some things to go over in terms of visa regulations, as well as just a chance for them to get their feet under them and to shake off some of the jet lag, and also do things that perhaps other students don't need to do in terms of opening a bank account in the US or getting a US mobile phone that works in the US, and also going over some of the different visa regulations that they need to know that not all students, the domestic students, don't necessarily have to keep in mind so much. So that is one thing. We do have a number of different resources on campus. So certainly we want our students to participate in any sort of academic support or with our great student affairs team. They also should be in contact. I've been emailing them incessantly throughout the summer, so they should know my name, if nothing else, at least. We've had a couple of Zooms already too with the new students, and so they had a chance to ask some questions and prepare a little bit to come. But certainly they can come to the International Programs Office for any support. I do try to get out there and meet the new students. Of course, all the ones that are here for international student orientation will get a chance to talk and get to know them. But there's always a few who, for travel reasons or visa reasons or other things, that can't make it to early for international student orientation. Please, we'll make sure to connect with them and catch them up on things that they may have not been able to get earlier. In addition to that, we have a robust Pitzer International Student Association. The student group is made up of all the different class years for international students, and that's been a really good resource for our students to kind of get to know each other, to do some programming, and also to share some experiences. Sorry about that. My office light just went off, but we're back on. but that's also a way for them to get a lot of support from the other students that are there as well too. And we have different outings and programming that goes on as well. During the school year, we'll have different workshops and things for the international students, particularly in concerns with getting employment permission or getting things like a social security number or those type of things, as well as more fun and entertaining programming too as well. So, I mean, I think we also, one of the things that we like to do is that sometimes there may be a student, only one student from a particular country at Pitzer, but there may be other students, international students at our sister schools in the consortium. So where there may be only one student or two, like for instance, we had two students from Ghana right now that are here, but over at Pomona, at CMC, at some of the at Scripps, at Harvey Mudd, there are other students from those countries or from that region. And so we do have a number of different activities, both before, during orientation and then also during the school year, to help connect those students to other to other students from their countries and that as well. And we also want, I think one of the things with PISA, the International Student Association, is to build connections so that if there are, domestic students who are interested in a certain region who may be thinking of studying abroad somewhere while they're at Pitzer, that's a good way to connect and to meet some of the other students that way too. There is a space for PISA on campus that's in the first year residence halls. And so it's a good place if you're an international parent, if your student wants to try and connect with other international students, or if you're a domestic student, domestic parent as well, and you have students that may be interested in going abroad or doing something, or just wanting to meet students from other places, that's also a great place for them to meet. And we'll be talking about that when your students arrive on campus. So please have them, if there's any interest in that at all, please have them contact me. Also, sometimes if there are international students, parents have questions about contact and about this thing called FERPA, which sometimes limits the what you can directly ask about from me, at least, about your students. Please give me, feel free to contact me via email, and we can set up a meeting to talk about that more if there are questions specifically about that. The other half of the office I am in is it's international programs and study abroad. So I wanted to just talk a little bit and give a quick plug for study abroad as well too. Hopefully your incoming students are interested in doing that. I'd say over half of our students by the time they graduate have some sort of study abroad experience, whether a semester or a year long or a summer experience. And so that is something that we encourage everyone who wants to study abroad to really try and do so. And to that end, we have a number of different options for that. There are 8 Pitzer programs, which means we have those programs are run by Pitzer staff and faculty. And so that they'll be in Costa Rica, for example. That is one where we have, or Nepal is our longest running one, where you'll go there. The staff there is Pitzer staff, and so that's a great way. I think those are really programs we've tried to develop and to have a unique experience that way. And we send several students each semester to those sites. In addition, there's almost 40 different universities that we have an exchange with, so that and that's a good way. Like I said before, we have about 10 different international students here currently. And so it's a great way to connect our current students with somebody who's from the university that they may be going to, or so that they have a familiar face when they go there the next semester to try and connect with and to learn more about while they're here. So there's about almost 40 different direct exchanges that we have that are options. In addition, there's about a dozen other direct enroll places. And so with all of these different programs, we have sites on all of the continents except for Antarctica. And we're also receiving students from all of the different continents as well, too, except for Antarctica this this semester and likely next semester too as well. So there's a lot of different options too. We do really want to support our international students that way, and rest assured they are in good hands, and please feel free to contact us if there's any questions or things about that too as well. That's about all I have for now. We look forward to seeing your students when they arrive, either early for international student orientation or on move-in day for everyone, all our new students too. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Todd. That was wonderful. Okay, now we're going to move over to our question and answer portion of this. And I see Willie McFarland has his hand raised. So I'm going to allow you to talk if you feel comfortable asking your question directly to one of our panelists. There you go. We'll have to unmute.
Hi, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to raise my hand. Sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, I did have a couple of questions come through the chat, and I see people are using the Q&A feature. So if you have a question that is not one that I'm going to read, feel free to add it into the chat. You can directly message any of our panelists or use the Q&A feature. So the first question that came in was asking if you could share a little bit about mental health resources that are available to students throughout the year. I don't know if Vince and Gabriella, maybe you two want to answer.
Sure, we can tag team. So mental health resources is an excellent question. I know that's something that's been on everyone's mind. So we do have a counseling center that is shared by the 7 colleges. It is a full service counseling center. We also have psychiatrists there. And they do, like I said, work with the 7 colleges. They provide programming, workshops, process groups, things like that. Really a great service. And they partner with each of our offices. At times, they will also, if there's an emergency, if there's a crisis, they will partner even more closely. At times, they've come to campus. So that is one. I do encourage students and families, if you already are working with a therapist, to stay in connection with your therapist, particularly with the pandemic, as there's been millions of articles, I'm sure you all are aware, that mental health services across the country are really taxed. So I don't recommend students not remaining connected to care. And I know there's like state regulations and all of that. So we can, if you have more questions, feel free to email me. But it is really important that if a student already has a diagnosis and they're working with a therapist full time, regularly, to establish care in the Claremont area, or if you are a student in California, a lot of our students, because of Zoom, like we're doing now, right, have been able to maintain connection with their already established therapist. I encourage that very strongly because, as you can imagine, the transition to college already has a lot of variables that you're trying to work out, and having a brand new therapist can also be challenging during that transition. So if there's any way to maintain that already established relationship, I encourage that highly. Our counseling center is fantastic, but is short-term care. It is not long-term care. It is not meant to be if you already have an established diagnosis for ongoing care. So I like to make that distinction, that it is short-term care. They will meet with students who are really struggling. If they're having a crisis, they certainly can help with that, but then they will refer students out to local therapists in our area, which we do have fantastic therapists in the area, but they have also been experiencing really long wait times because of the impact of the pandemic. So just know that. In addition to that, my team and I work really hard to have, we're going to have all kinds of really great mental health wellness programming throughout the year. So we are going to have that support on campus. And last year, and then this coming fall semester, we have also partnered with 2 therapists in the community, our counseling. So they will be joining us on campus again to also support students, understanding that folks are still struggling a bit. So those are pretty much the resources that we have. And then we also have folks that work with students if they do need to find a therapist in the area once they get here. So I hope that helps answer that question. I don't know if there's anything else Vince would like to add.
I think that was a very robust response, Gabriella. The only thing I would add additionally is that we also do quite a bit of proactive programming. We really want to empower our students and recognize that we're going to always be there from a responsive standpoint as things come up, but we also want to empower and encourage our students in a lot of ways to voice the different needs that they have, to normalize, engage in these types of conversations, a range of different things. So we really try to balance the direct support with also some proactive measures as well.
Wonderful, thank you. That leads into another question that we received where someone was asking about opportunities to network and meet students from the other colleges. Maybe you can speak a little bit about how that's gonna potentially work.
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, that is, as we mentioned earlier, an integral part of the 5C experience. And we're so excited to, start to see a shift and moving more towards that endemic. What I would say is that's going to happen in an array of different ways. From an academic standpoint, students are often taking courses at other campuses just as much as their home campus. So that's one of the opportunities. Certainly, many of our student organizations are 1C based, but also 5C based as well too. So that's another opportunity to sort of engage in community with different students. There are plenty of social events that are hosted by our campus life offices and student activities across the colleges. I would also add that many of our student organizations will host events as well too. And so those are good opportunities on a weekend to go out and meet folks in different spaces that way. Our cross-campus dining is another huge one as well. So being able to access meals throughout the day on the different campuses. Yeah, I would say those are probably some of the primary ways. I mean, I'm sure there are many other ways as well that I might be missing. And if they are, Gabriella, feel free to weigh in. But those are just some of the more organic ways that it plays out for sure.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm going to jump over to the Q&A. I know there are some questions that have been answered and a couple that are still waiting answers. We have one question from Latrice. Do families need to reserve carts for move-in day? My understanding is no, there's no reservation, but they will be available for use. And we have plenty of helping hands on the staff side who will be there to help move all of your things into your room. So I would, unless there's something else that I don't know, I don't think there's any reservation for carts on move-in day. And then we had another question about resources for LGBTQ plus students. Can you speak to that?
Sure thing, absolutely. Gabriella, you want to jump in and I'll close some gaps as well too.
Sure. So we have a really robust center, the Queer Resource Center, which is a shared resource across the 7 colleges. Each of the colleges participates. We have student groups. We have a student group on campus that liaises with the Queer Resource Center. So there's programming, there's support, there's proactive programming, there's fun events that they host, but then there's also workshops and speaker series and all kinds of really great things that the Queer Resource Center does. And then, like I said, they liaise with the Pitzer student group, which I'll have Vince talk a little bit more about on that one. But yes, there are, in short.
Yeah, sure thing. So, like any of the colleges, we have Pitzer, we're really excited about our affinity groups. And in a case here at Pitzer, we have SAGA, our Sexual and Gender Alliance group that really is our primary sort of go-to for our students that identify as LGBTQ+. Additionally, we're really excited about a program, TAPAS, that really sort of works behind the scenes to really be mindful of the various policies and structures that impact our trans and non-binary students. And so a lot of active work. Gabriella and I happen to be members as well that, but additionally many other administrators, not only at Pitzer, but across the 5 Cs or 7 Cs, I should say, that are really always thinking about ways where we can be more inclusive in that way. And so, again, those policies, the things that we may not be thinking about in the day-to-day, making sure that that's a smooth transition for any student at any stage, if they're, inquiring or in the process of transitioning, for instance. So it's something that we're really always excited about. Also, many of our student organizations will also do collaborative events as well to We recognize that that's one facet of individual's identity, and there may be other ones that intersect. And so, our students try to find ways to bridge those gaps as well too.
Thank you. All right, we had a question come in from a family traveling in from out of state talking about the difficulty in getting COVID test results in time. Are there any resources in California near campus that you're aware of that they might be able to take advantage of, being mindful of that 72-hour request?
That's a good question. I mean, I think, historically what we've done in those moments have had folks instantly go over to student health services to get tested immediately. As we mentioned already with the vending machine, but it's not the sort of thing that's going to be a rapid results. It's still going to be an extended amount of time. And so, in those events, we will really need some proactive communication as soon as possible. Certainly, we still have a few weeks before folks will be coming to campus. And so, we would encourage folks if they needed to try to book something ahead of time. Hopefully this would be that window of time, but we also recognize that each town, city, country, those things are going to vary. And so the more communication you're having with us on the front end, the more we can try to plan accordingly as well.
And I will add that a lot of the, so like CVS and those pharmacy locations are having the 1 hour test. So so that's something to be aware of, that if at the very least, if you can get that done, that might be something. I know they were requiring appointments ahead of time, but if you look at the local area, CVS, Walgreens, kind of the bigger chain pharmacies, they were having testing available. So and like Vince said, we can work with you all once it gets closer and once you kind of have a plan. It's just a matter of figuring that out before you arrive on campus. That's going to be really, really the key, is to have a plan of action if that is the case.
Great answers, thank you. Okay, our next question comes from Samari Beckett. Hi, I got to meet you at the RDC reception, so good to see you. And she's asking about the number of classes that students will be able to sign up for when they arrive on campus. Are you familiar with the first year student load in terms of class?
It's an average of about 4 classes is what I typically see from students. Our students average about 3 to 5 classes, like typically, right? That's just in general, not just first year students. But I always encourage students to really stay in that 4 range, especially your first semester, right? Like you don't want to overload on classes. That's my personal opinion. So yeah, I think 4 is the magic number. I work with students with accommodations, or if you have any kind of challenge or whatever you might be going through, like even 3 is okay that first semester, knowing that you may need to like catch up a little bit later on. But yeah, don't put so much pressure on yourself. I think 4 is a good number. I know if Todd has more to say on that. Certainly for our international students and families, you probably have, it's a little more nuanced.
3, well, for international students, they need to be at least in 3 courses, but okay. I echo what you say about not overloading that first semester. I mean, students come in and they're very excited, which is great, and they want to try a lot of things and do a lot of stuff. But 5 is, I always encourage any international or domestic, whoever, first semester especially, that let's pull back. There's a lot of time. It may seem short and you need to do everything at once, but you do have a lot of time to kind of see what's out there, and you want to get off to a good start. So I would say I echo that. 3 or 4 for your first semester is great. A lot of students bring in credit either from APs or IB or things like that, and there's lots of opportunities either in summer or taking 5 courses later on when you have a better idea of what kind of classes look like and how they're structured too. And there's a number of half credit courses too that you can make up. But there's a lot of time for that. So I would say that, talk it over with your faculty advisor, have your son or daughter talk it over with their faculty advisor too, as well. I think they're going to have a lot of helpful advice too, but let's try to, I think it's important to get off to a good start and a strong start. And so so yeah, so I echo what Gabrielle says. Unfortunately, I have to run, but it's great to get a chance to talk to all of you. We really look forward to seeing students in just a few weeks, and we're already getting ready for international student orientation. And thanks, Vince, for the reminders about the testing and all that. And I think we're excited to have students back again this year on campus, and we were taking a lot of what we learned from last year to heart too, and seeing how we can make it an even better experience this time around. And so we're really excited for the semester to begin. So thanks all.
Thank you. Okay, one more question we have in Q&A. They're asking, what are some great resources students didn't realize right away, but really like once they realize they exist on campus? Maybe Nayab, you want to answer in the chat or raise your hand and we can unmute you and you can share some of your experience with the group. That would probably be really helpful.
Hello, can you hear me? Wonderful. I don't know if you can see my video or not. No, okay. So one thing which, first of all, affinity groups are the best part about being at Pitzer, because no matter who you are, what background you have, you will have a comfortable and open and welcoming space on campus. And I saw someone was asking questions about resources for LGBTQ plus students. So I feel like Pitzer is probably I feel like Pitzer is such a beautiful, diverse, and open campus that LGBTQ plus students have, all the resources available to them, especially in the affinity groups. And other than that, one thing that I absolutely love is the weekly events which are planned by the events board. By Elena Cortland. We have this team of this team called events team, I think. I'm not exactly sure what department this is, but they plan weekly events or bi-weekly events, which are very simple activities, as simple as hanging out with the dogs on the mounds, or like a food truck or something. So these are some small bonding events which happen on Pitzer campus. There are big events as well, like Halloween parties and stuff, but these cute little events are such a great bonding experience. So I feel like these are the highlights of my experience overall.
I would say, first of all, thank you so much. Perfect response. I'm like, how do you follow that up? What I would say is that, I might be a bit biased, but I always want students to get plugged into our Office of Student Affairs, OSA. And a big part of that is that array of different issues may come up at any point in time. So a perfect example, let's just say we're dealing with a student that happens to be low income and needs support with getting help with textbooks or a laptop or things like that. At any given time, we have those resources right on hand and on deck for students. There's so many more too. And, quite frankly, the deans, all of us, we're always looking to foster relationships with our students and point them in the right directions. And we have so many years of experience and have worked with so many different types of students. And many of our staff have been here at Pitzer for a number of years. I've been at the 5Cs a number of years, even though my time at Pitzer is a little bit shorter. So we're always looking to help students navigate and be successful. We have quite a few amazing folks that live within our community. So we have live-in staff, our RDs, our residence directors that are just so awesome as well too. So I come at it from a professional tilt, but I also know that we have so many outstanding resources that from a peer-to-peer level as well too.
Wonderfully said. Thank you. Thank you, Nayab. If you are looking for a job or your student is looking for some type of employment, she has worked in our office, and I know a number of other offices on campus. So a little plug, the Office of Advancement and Communications. We always take students. All right, next question. Marty is asking about the schedule for Fall Family Weekend. Thank you for asking. If you haven't already, please save the date for Family Weekend. It is going to be October 28th through the 30th. We are still working on finalizing our schedule, but you can look forward to opportunities to connect with faculty members, staff on campus. We always try and bring back our younger alumni so you can hear about what they've done with this liberal arts education and how they have taken their Pitzer experience and what they've done with it after graduation. We will be sending out emails after orientation. If you don't have those dates set yet, that is August 19th. We have an event happening in the evening. It's called Groove at the Grove. If you're in town early, but the actual orientation begins on Saturday the 20th. We have programming specific to families that will happen concurrently with your new student orientation programming. So you will have plenty of time to get your student moved in the morning. And then we have some really great programming and opportunities for you to hear more from panelists who can share information about what to expect and how best to navigate Pitzer to support your student during their time here. So thank you for that. Yes, Deborah, thank you. Okay, so during the evening dinner time portion of family orientation, we will also have a resource fair. So our resource fair during orientation will be focused on family resources, but there's also a resource fair happening that is student specific the following week. So there is a lot of opportunity to learn about different organizations, partners, clubs, activities from the student side and from the family side. So I hope that helps answer your question. Okay, I don't think there are any others. And I got to plug the 2 events that I wanted to. So please, we hope you save the date and join us on campus for move-in and for family weekend. I want to give a special thank you to our speakers. I know Todd had to leave early, but Vince and Gabriella, thank you so much for being here and speaking to this group. Thank you for adding links into the chat. For everyone still sticking around, we invite you to go back over to Wonder. If you didn't join us earlier, it's a really fun, intuitive platform where you can drag your circle around and connect with other people, talk with them face to face. We have some areas that you can join based on residence halls where your student will be staying. So you can meet others living in that area and connect with other parents that you'll all kind of share experience, and hopefully you'll exchange contact information and stay in touch. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the end of the month. Bye all, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Feel free to email us as well.